Right.
So it's very wet in a tropical rainforest. That's why they call it a tropical rainforest. So let's go on a quick trip. I'm going to take you to a forest, and you guess which one we'll go take. Let's go. Okay, here we are. We're in a forest. We learned about the different kinds of forests. Which one do you think this is? It's really dark down here on the forest floor. And it's really damp. Only some plants can live down here where they're not getting a lot of sunlight. And with this kind of dampness under my feet, I know there's been a lot of rain. So what kind of forest do you think this is? With vines, moss, ferns? That's right. This is a tropical rainforest. Wow. It's so cool. But it's a little bit creepy here all by myself. Who knows what kind of animals are hidden in the trees or around any of these trees or rocks. Thank you for investigating forests with me. I will see you next time. One set of words that give a lot of people trouble are accept and accept. They sound alike, but they're spelled completely different, and they have completely different meanings. Have you ever been told that there's sometimes just something you have to memorize to get it right? This might be it. I do have one little trick to help you, so hopefully that little trick will do the job, but if not, this might just be one of those rules where you just have to memorize it. So let's give it a shot. Accept versus accept. Okay, so to accept something, A-C-C-E-P-T, that means to receive it. So if you're given a gift, you're accepting a gift. Or believe that it's true. If you accept their story, then you believe that it's true. Or to say yes. Do you accept my proposal? You would say yes. Okay, I accept. All right. Accept is to exclude or other than. Here's your trick. Okay. If you might say, I visited every fast food place except whatever it might be. You could switch the word accept with exclude. And here's how you can remember that. Accept with an EX has the same beginning as exclude with an EX. So let's practice. But try and remember, accept with an EX is interchangeable with the word exclude with an EX. So here we go. I accept your apology. Okay? I receive it. I regard it as true. I receive your apology. He accepted the job on the West Coast. He said yes to the job on the West Coast. Of all the gifts my daughter gave me, I was happiest to accept a hug. To receive that hug. I'm looking forward to accepting a spot on the basketball team. I'm looking forward to saying yes to a spot on the basketball team. Okay, let's look at accept. Yes. He did well in all subjects except math. Let's practice our little trick. Let's replace accept with excluding. He did well in all subjects excluding math. Does that have the same meaning? It does, right? He did well in all subjects excluding math, so he didn't do well in math. So it works here. So we know that we have used the correct form. Let's try another one. I know everyone here except the person working behind the counter. I know everyone here excluding the person working behind the counter. Does that make sense? It does. So we know that we have used the correct form here. Let's try it again. I'm finished with all my homework except geography. I'm finished with all my homework excluding geography. It makes sense. So, except, E-X-C-E-P-T, can be interchangeable going to walk on stage to accept the award. Which one is it? Let's say you can't remember. What's the first thing that you're going to ask yourself? Can I replace it with the word excluding? I am going to walk on stage to excluding the award. That doesn't make sense. So by default, you know that accept A-C-C-E-C-T. Correct. Let's do another one. We broke down every road except that one. What do we do first? If we can't figure it out, we're just not sure, what do? We replace it with excluding, right? So let's try it. We drove down every road excluding that one. Does it make sense? It does. So we know that E-X-C-E-P-T is the correct form. How do we know that? Because of the E and the X, right? E-X from accept and the E-X from excluded. Those two go together. Let's do another one. The ball player got a hit every at-bat except the last one. I'm not sure. I don't remember. What can I do? Oh, that's right. I can plug in the word excluding. So let's give it a shot. The ball player got a hit every at-bat excluding the last one. Does that make sense to you? Me too. Good. So we know that we will write the word E-X-C-E-P-T. Okay, last one. The baby bird happily accepted the worm. I'm not sure which one to use. So what trick? Plug in excluding, right? The baby bird happily excluding the worm. That does not make sense. So by default, we know that it is accepted. A-C-C. Alright, so here's what to remember. A-C-C-E-P-T is a verb. It means to receive, to say yes, to believe as truth, accept. E-X-C-E-P-T is to exclude something. So, not this one. If you can plug in exclude in place of accept, and it makes sense, then which form of accept do you use? That's right. E-X-C-E-P-T. If nothing else, if you remember nothing else, remember, if you can plug in the word exclude,
me and Holly Berry are like two sugar cubes in a jar.
What was that? You playing a game or you doing schoolwork?
Both. It's easy. get to that. Alright, let's get to building the house, shall we? Me and Holly Berry are like 2 sugar cubes in a jar.
But before you get to reading, we need to take a look at some of the vocabulary that you're going to encounter as you read the story. And this time, I'm not going to give you definitions. Instead, we're going to take a look at these words, the synonyms. Now, you'll recall synonyms mean something that means the same. So the first word we're going to look at is complacency. So some synonyms for complacency mean satisfaction, like you are happy with the way something is. Civility, you are civil, you are nice. And a sense of security. So all of these 3 words mean basically the same thing as complacency. The next one we're going to take a look at is vigil. Vigil means you are in an observation. You are essentially watching something, or maybe you are guarding something. But either way, you are intent on something. You are aware of something that's going on around you. You are keeping vigil. You are watching. You are observing. You are on guard for something that is going to happen. Another word is accost. Now, some synonyms for accost include confront, address, and annoy. Now, some of these words have more of a negative connotation. That means when you hear them, you think something bad. Like confront and annoy kind of have more of a bad feeling when you say them. But address has more of a positive connotation. So whenever you're thinking of accost, you're going to have to look at the words around it to determine exactly which way this word is leaning, so to speak. The next one is colossal. Now, some synonyms for colossal are enormous and giant and immense. So when you hear these things, you can begin to understand that some of the things inside the story are going to be huge and giant and immense. They're going to be all-encompassing and great big and tromping all over everything. So keep that in mind as you come across the word colossal. Another word you're going to find is haggard. And some synonyms for haggard are weak and worn down and exhausted. So there might be some characters within the story that are becoming haggard. They're fighting a war, and that is something that happens over the course of the war. You may start off really full of vigor and excitement, but the longer the war is, the more haggard you become. And another word we're going to see as we read
Me
the
and
story
Holly
is
Berry are like 2
scoff.
sugar
Now,
cubes
when you
in a
scoff,
jar.
that means
I told you not to come around my
discredit
garden
something.
again,
You're
Shadow
making
Moon.
fun of it. You're mocking it, or you're ridiculing it. You're making it less than what someone else thinks it should be. You are scoffing. So each of these words could easily replace scoff wherever you might find it in the text. So that's just a look at some of the words you're going to encounter as you read the story. So I suggest you go ahead and get started. If you find some more words, turn to your dictionary and see if you can figure out what they mean.
Just waiting for people to join my stream. I wish I had an actual microphone and I don't have to wear the headsets like this.
Rhode Island, New Jersey, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, and Ohio. The first state is Maine, and the capital of Maine.
What do you think I'm doing?
Sometimes this state is
I'm live streaming while doing my schoolwork. It's actually pretty easy.
The state flower is the white pinecone and tassel, and the state bird is the chickadee. Maine, of course, is that northernmost state in the U.S. besides Alaska. The next state is New Hampshire, and the capital is Concord. It is right below Maine, and it's actually nicknamed the Granite State because of these huge deposits of granite that are here. The state flower is the purple lilac. The state bird is the purple finch. Notice that shape, it almost looks like a finger pointing up. That state right below Maine. The next state is Vermont, and the capital is Montpelier. It's nicknamed the Green Mountain State, referring to the forested mountains that cover this entire region. The name Vermont actually comes from a French explorer who used the French word "Vermont" to describe green tree-covered mountains. I love saying that. Vermont. I'm probably not saying it right, but that's how we got Vermont. The state flower is the red clover, and the state bird is the hermit thrush. The next state is New York, and the capital is Albany. It's nicknamed the Empire State. Some people believe that this nickname came from the comment that George Washington made, anticipating that New York would become the core of the new empire. The state flower is the rose. The state bird is the bluebird. Now, originally, this territory was claimed by the Dutch and named Netherlands, and then once the English took it over, it was renamed to New York in honor of the Duke of York. The next state is Massachusetts. Of course, the capital is Boston. It's nicknamed the Bay State, which refers to Massachusetts Bay, where Puritans were the first to establish a colony in this whole area. The state flower is the Mayflower, and the state bird is the chickadee. Now, take note of the shape of this state. It's pretty easy to tell it has that piece that curls up into the Atlantic Ocean, so that
It looks like a giant penis.
with its shape. The next state is Rhode Island, and the capital is Providence. This is take note.
Grandma. You can't tell me that don't look like a giant penis.
Pretty easy to tell it has that piece that curls up.
You can't tell me don't look like a giant penis.
With its shape. The next state is Rhode Island.
Maybe it's just my mind, dirty mind speaking.
This is called the Ocean State. The state flower is the violet, and the state bird is the Rhode Island red. The next state is New Jersey, and the capital is Trenton. It's nicknamed the Garden State because of all its truck farms, flower gardens, and orchards. The state flower is the purple violet. The state bird is the eastern goldfinch. Now, this is just south of New York. In fact, a lot of people who work in New York and have jobs in New York will live down in New Jersey and commute to New York City every day. It's that close. The next state is Connecticut, and the capital is Hartford. This state is called the Constitution State because the colonial laws of Connecticut were used as one of the models for the U.S. Constitution. The state flower is the mountain laurel. The state bird is the robin. The next state is Pennsylvania. The capital is Harrisburg. This is nicknamed the Keystone State because of its location in the center of the 13 original colonies. The state flower is the mountain laurel. The state bird is the ruffed grouse. It's actually named after William Penn. Several important historical things have happened here, including the signing of the Declaration of Independence in 1912. The next state is Ohio, and the capital is Columbus. It's called the Buckeye State because of the many buckeye trees here. The state flower is the scarlet carnation. The state bird is the cardinal. The name Ohio actually comes from an Iroquois word that means something great. So these are the Northeast states and capitals. humans, you can think an angiosperm. So let's go ahead and talk about what an angiosperm actually is. An angiosperm is plants that are characterized by having flowers and producing seeds in enclosed ovaries. So for example, this lemon, this pear, these apples, and this orange are all from an angiosperm. But fruits are not the only types of angiosperms. For example, things like peanuts, chickpeas, lots of different vegetables are also going to be a part of the angiosperm family. Anytime you have the seeds enclosed and protected, you are going to be looking at a plant that's a part of this family. Angiosperms are extremely diverse, and they actually make up over 80% of green plants. They're also the most
I have to put my headset like this.
Not only do they provide us with food, they give us fibers for clothes, medicine, building supplies, and so many other important resources. So we know that angiosperms are an extremely diverse group of plants, but what are some of the common characteristics between all of these plants? Like I mentioned before, all angiosperms have seeds that are enclosed within a fruit. They also have well-developed vascular systems with specialized tissue called xylem.
It'll be fine if you do.
And these are going
Nothing a
to
washer can't fix.
water and nutrients around the plant, and especially into the fruit. Another characteristic of angiosperms is that they are flowering plants. Anytime you see a flower, you are looking at an angiosperm. And another really cool feature that the leaves on the angiosperm plants can actually move a little bit so they can get the most sunlight and perform photosynthesis. Not all plants in the plant kingdom are as efficient as these angiosperms. When these plants pollinate, they're actually going to go through an indirect process of reproduction. Angiosperms are not going to be able to reproduce on their own. They're going to need help. And a lot of times we can see helpers in the form of pollinators. And there are so many different creatures that can be pollinators.
Can I throw it away?
Oftentimes we think of animals like bees, butterflies, moths, bats, but humans can be pollinators too. We sometimes get pollen on our toes, and we're able to transfer it from one flower to another when we're working in the field. As angiosperms,
Alright.
create some really great motivators for pollinators to come visit them. Inside flowers is a really sweet substance called nectar, and this is going to be fuel and food for so many different small creatures. And that sweet nectar is going to tempt the pollinator to come to the flower where the pollen is actually going to get stuck on its body.
We're like 2 sugar cubes in a jar.
More nectar, that pollen is going to transfer. This process can actually be so specialized that certain plants and animals have.
If you want to see my, then check my bio.
Which is where the pollen can actually go inside of the ovary and create new seeds. But usually this is not the best method overall to continue a species. Cross-pollination, or the process where pollen from one plant goes into
Not that I know of.
another plant, is going to have the best genetic diversity.
I'm making William and Bravy's room. Not room, house.
As it continues to grow and thrive. Once plants are pollinated and the ovules are fertilized, the ovary is going to grow into a fruit. One of the many functions of the fruit is to assist the dispersal of seeds, which is achieved through some different mechanisms. For example, fruits can be attractive food for animals, and after being eaten, the seeds contained in the fruit are usually dispersed a great distance away from the parent plant, and a new unique plant is going to grow. Other seeds are able to attach themselves to animals.
Did you know William Afton and Bravey got married? Not in the William Afton and Bravey. I'm Bravey. At least her human form.
To your pants or shoes. In this lesson, you learned just how important angiosperms are.
Not like canon, like in the FNAF. I wish.
Fibrous materials, medicine, and so much more. And animals, they also need these plants. Having a diverse group of angiosperms within an ecosystem is going to ensure that there is
I think I made this too long.
diversity and that you
About
have
here
lots of
should be
different
good.
species thriving from these amazing producers. Hopefully you learned something new, and I'll see you next time.
Alright. Roadhouse. Oh god, why are they using AI?
In today's lesson, we are going to be taking a deeper look at the largest and most diverse part of the plant kingdom. And this is going to be a group of organisms called angiosperms. Angiosperms are plants that are characterized by having flowers and producing seeds in an enclosed ovary. These plants are going to have the biggest impact on our own lives as they provide the food we eat and the plants growing in our yards. Let's go ahead and take a look at the two different types of angiosperms. If you look at this picture, you'll be able to see something called a
Nobody's gonna know. They're gonna know.
something called a dicot.
How would they know?
This gives a hint at the difference between these two different types of angiosperms.
Nobody's know. They're gonna know.
One, and monocots
How would they know?
one cotyledon. A cotyledon is a part
I know.
inside of the seed that provides
How would they
for the
know?
baby plant. Remember, when you put a seed in the ground, it does not have the ability to do photosynthesis. So there is a large area in the seed dedicated for food storage. The second type of angiosperm is called a dicot. And just like there was a hint in the name monocot, there is a hint in the word dicot. Di meaning two. So if you were to look at a dicot seed, you would see that it has two cotyledons, or areas for food storage. Now, the number of cotyledons is not the only difference between monocots and dicots. If you were to look at different parts of the plant at different times during the development, you would start to see some very distinct differences between these two angiosperms. Let's go ahead and compare these two different plants by looking at a chart. Here you are going to see some of the key features that make monocots and dicots different. Now we've already talked about how the seed is different, and there's one cotyledon in the monocots and two cotyledons in the dicots. The next feature where you can see a major difference is going to be the way the roots grow. Monocots have something called fibrous roots. They are going to grow out in all directions with no...
God, I had the hiccups and they're annoying me.
Where a dicot... A taproot is going to have a single large root growing straight down, and then you'll have smaller roots growing out from that are flowering plants. So all of them are going to have some sort of flower we can look at. Monocots have flowers with petals and multiples of 3. Flowers with petals of 4 or 5. And of course, if you were to take a closer look at the leaves, you would see
Welcome to the Eternal Stream.
narrow leaves with parallel veins. This means that the veins are going up and down, side by side. Dicots, on the other hand, are going to have large, flat, oval-shaped leaves. And here you will see a central vein with smaller veins coming out from it. If you were to look at a mature monocot and dicot stem, and you were to cut it open, you would see vascular tissue inside.
Cookie Run Kingdom.
And you're going
If you want to see my, then check my bio.
Are organized is different. So when you dissect the stem of a monocot, you are going to see the vascular bundles are scattered around in a random pattern, but in a dicot, these vascular bundles are going to be in a ring pattern. And the final major difference between monocots and dicots is actually their pollen. So in the springtime, maybe you have allergies or you've seen pollen cover your bicycle or cars. And pollen is actually one of the ways that plants reproduce. But if you were to look at pollen under a microscope, you would see something called a pollen grain. Pollen grains of monocots have one pore or furrow, while the pollen grains of dicots have 3 pores or furrows. They're going to look very, very different if you get a close-up look. Now that we've compared and contrasted monocots and dicots, I want to see if you can identify a monocot or dicot, if I give you an example. Take a look at the model I have in front of you. Here you can see the different steps of growth in a plant. And of course the first step is going to be
and round
planting the seed.
and round.
And right here it's a little bit difficult to see what is happening and what type of seed it would be. Now if we were to give some time to the plant, it is going to move to its next life cycle stage, which is called germination. I'm starting to see the roots grow, and it looks like we're getting our first leaf. It's still a little difficult to tell if this would be a monocot or a dicot, but I think the next level might help you. Here we have a seedling, and I think this is where you will be able to determine if this is a monocot or a dicot. The first thing I want you to look at is the root system. Notice that there is a singular root going straight down, and there are smaller roots jutting off from that central root. I can also see, if I turn this sideways, that there are 2 distinct sides. Now this thing is a little hard to see here, but once we get to the seedling, this should give you a clue on what type of plant it is. Before I give you the answer, let's take a look at the mature plant. And here you can see a much more defined taproot system, and it looks like it has large, flat, oval roots. So based off of the roots, the cotyledon, and the leaves, do you think this is a monocot or a dicot? Hopefully you have your guess, because the correct answer is a dicot. I'm sure you got that right.
No,
So good job.
I guess monocot.
You have learned all about monocots and dicots, which are the 2 types of angiosperms or flowering plants. You can find these different types of plants all over if you know where to look for them. Remember that science is all around us, so make sure you stay curious.
Alright, all my schooling's done besides math. Alright, time to add the stream here since I'm done with my schooling.